months now, market analysts have been forecasting that if President Donald Trump went ahead with his plans to impose import tariffs on a number of countries around the world, this would result in generally higher inflation. The uncertainty that has come with the US's unilateral decisions on tariffs, going ahead with them, pausing them and so on, has served to cause a lot of uncertainty, with global stocks selling off. And one thing's for sure, markets dislike uncertainty.
I read a comment just now, I think it was the IMF, that said the uncertainty around tariffs is often as damaging as the actual tariff. And as you say, so over the weekend, 25% on Canada and Mexico, and now that's postponed because those two countries have come to an agreement with the US to put some troops on the borders and to secure the borders. And all of this happening whilst this delay for 30 days is still not a certainty. So there's so many moving parts here for us as investors to try and keep an eye on. It's becoming quite difficult.
The first set of import tariff increases took off with Chinese goods today, with China set to retaliate from next week on US goods. But it's still early days to say how the current goings-on are likely to pan out.
It's really a wait and see to what extent this could have a ripple effect on everybody else. I mean, the world economy is very integrated. We buy from China, we buy from the United States. The United States buys equipment, from China and vice versa. So those sort of prices, transferring to South African consumers, it's a wait and see for now.
Meanwhile, it's reported that Elon Musk, who heads the Department of Government Efficiency, is looking to scrap US aid, which dispersed about $72 billion in aid to needy beneficiaries around the world in 2023. President Trump has made moves to withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord, as well as the World Health Organization, with an eye on coming out of other international bodies. The Trump administration's withdrawal from key international agreements, which seek to make the world a better place, has been called into question, particularly given the adverse impacts on the African continent.
It sends a signal to other wealthier countries, and I think a bad one at that, around one can make a commitment, and should it be that easy, dependent on who sits in office, to completely step away from that? And what does it mean for accountability particularly within, geopolitical tensions that we're seeing right now? How do we begin to insulate? How do we begin to think about, these global commitments, these negotiations? How do we insulate that from essentially geopolitical tensions and shifts that we see, particularly in the global north? Because again, these are not just political moves that happen at a distance for Africa. They have direct impacts on us, right? And so I think that is something that is brought to the fore.
Concerns have been raised that regions like Africa are going to have to deal with Trump possibly using economic tools at his disposal as leverage to dictate certain terms. And some argue that this has been illustrated by Trump's threat to South Africa to withdraw aid funding in the future due to his perception that the country's expropriation laws are unfair to some sectors of society. Some say that this may be an opportunity to forge partnerships elsewhere, adding that at least recent developments mean that the continent's voice will be heard as it seeks to be heard in terms of its hopes and development goals.
I think there's tons of opportunities that come with, South Africa taking on as president of the G20, and the role that South Africa is now playing in making sure that, Africans' priorities are sitting at the forefront of a global agenda. I think this is key now. It's imperative, particularly with the kind of geopolitical tensions that we're seeing right now.
South Africa under Trump's microscope, it's unclear if the threat of withdrawing financial aid is just the start of a barrage of financial and economic punitive measures coming our way. Could it be a goer next, or even higher import tariffs, as already imposed on other countries? Whatever the case, South Africans will need to fasten their seatbelts as the country's trade and inflation picture look decidedly uncertain. Nompumela Lusiziba, SABC News, Johannesburg.